Part two. I'm really, really sorry about that. Second time lucky. I'm hoping that you can hear me for whatever reason. I'm hoping you can. Please let me know in the chat box if you can hear me. I'm assuming it's because I was on Wi-Fi that it didn't work for whatever reason. I'm now on 4G, so I'm hoping that you can hear me fine. Please let me know in the chat box if you can. But yeah, we are live again talking about the latest news with Arsenal and whatever else. So, speaking about Zaha was obviously linked to Arsenal. Everton have come in. You can hear me. Thank you, Pat, for telling me that. It's all good now. But yeah, where was I? Talking about Zaha. It'd be really... I don't think he'll choose Everton whatsoever. I really don't. I don't think he'll choose Everton. He's got the links to Arsenal, boyhood club. He wants to sign for us, and he will make that happen. And hopefully it will happen. Fingers crossed. I just think when we're looking forward to him signing, there's a lot of different controversies amongst the fans. I've had plenty of discussions with people regarding Wilfried Zaha. I personally am for the deal. I'm someone who wants that deal to happen. There's several reasons for that. I think that not only is a player that scores goals, creates chances and all that as well, but I think there's a chance that also we sign someone that's got that link to the club already, and that's important. It's important that we sign people for the club. It's important that we sign people that have an attachment and a liking for Arsenal and an attachment to the club, not just as a player and for money, but more so for the fact that they're an Arsenal fan. They've got an attachment, an emotional contract to the club, effectively. And Clive, if you listen to the show we did with Clive from the Arsenal Vision podcast, you can listen back to that on the channel. He is someone that definitely knows his stuff, and he even agreed with me and actually enlightened me to the fact that Wilfried Zaha was someone that can bring that emotional attachment back to the club. We lacked him out of players. There's not too many at the club. You've got the likes of Hector Bellerin, for example, but even there's people have reservations about him. The only players we've really got through coming through the youth system was like the likes of Alex Iwobi, and so therefore I just don't think you're going to be getting the same sort of value on a connection level that you would, for instance, if you sign the likes of Everton or Malcolm. Yes, they're decent players. Yes, they would come in and do a decent job. They know they're what we need in terms of dribbling, and they can score goals. But I just don't see this being the case with the same way if Zaha came in. He adds that little bit of spark and dynamism that we just quite lack in his team. Plus, he's got more of a physicality about him. He actually helps out on the defensive side of the pitch. If you want to learn a little bit more, you can actually look at one of the tactical breakdowns I did on Wilfried Zaha. It breaks down all of his stats. I've done lots of comparisons to other players as well regarding Wilfried Zaha, like Everton, for instance, like Malcolm, and you can see the comparisons between those players. I think he just adds that little bit extra that we don't currently have in the Arsenal side, and it's a shame that we don't have that. But unfortunately, it's just one of those things that we have to deal with. And the way of dealing with that is by signing someone like Wilfried Zaha, who brings you that energy, brings you that dribbling and technical skill we can use on the left wing. We've really lacked goals from that side for a lot of many seasons after losing Alexis Sanchez, and we just haven't replaced that goal threat. So bringing in Zaha, I think, is a definite player that we can bring in that's going to do a lot for the club. Moving forwards then, let's answer some of your questions before we round off. I'm hoping those of you that have rejoined us, the sound is fine. I'm on 4G again. No idea why it cut out last time, but thank you for tuning in once again. Sandal Hela says, Zaha, Iwobi, Alba behind Lacazette should be awesome. I'm interested to see how Iwobi is used next season, especially considering I think he needs to be moved into a more of a central role. Hyperfrantic says Saka looks good enough to start. Yeah, Saka looked really bright in his pre-season fixtures. I still think he's one of those that needs to be eased into the first team in terms of competitive matches. But the Carabao Cup, the early stage of the FA Cup and the Europa League are going to be huge for these youngsters, especially the likes of Martinelli, Nelson, Willock. Willock looks fantastic. I think Willock could definitely be pushing for a starting berth or definitely a squad place in the Premier League games. It's going to be interesting to see how he works. Abraham and Bayer says, would you still rather have Bale than Zaha? No, I wouldn't. Bale, for me, is not someone I'd go for. He's had issues in Spain. He's not been consistent enough. His injury record is deplorable. And he costs a lot of money. His wages would be ridiculous. I just think you're getting no resale value from him at all, whereas with Zaha, you could have an effective resale value for him. There's a big argument to say that we get no resale value at all with Wilfried Zaha. I tend to disagree with that statement because I don't think that you're seeing like him stay for the entirety of the contract. He'd be good for 2-3 seasons, could really smash it for us, and then we could sell him on if we need to. If not, he could smash the season for 5 seasons. He's only 26 years old. He can do plenty of work for the club. I don't see that side of the argument. Wilson says, do you think that Arsenal have more than 45 million to spend? Yes, I do, Wilson. I think that is blatantly obvious from the links that we're seeing. Sim XL98 says Ruben Diaz. Yes, Ruben Diaz is a really, really fantastically full of potential centre-back. I did a tactical breakdown on him, which you can also go check out on the channel. We got the thoughts of Jose Miguel, who lives in Lisbon. He's a Sporting Lisbon fan, not a Benfica fan, but he's very, very level-headed in terms of his thoughts on the Benfica centre-back. So please check the tactical breakdown on him. But Ruben Diaz is certainly someone I think has a future at one of the top clubs in Europe. Henry Oakland says, I think Chambers only works as a CDM. Do you? I'm not sure, because I've only seen him play that CDM role at Fulham, and he did still have a lot of issues in that position. He let the passes go through and behind him. He opened up gaps that weren't meant to be there. He didn't find and anticipate certain passes quick enough. And whilst he did have a few solid fixtures for them and ended up getting their player of the season, I don't think that's something that can be taken lightly. I just don't see Callum Chambers being that guy moving forwards to be the one to take us through. Hyper Francis says a midfield of Willock, Torreira and Ceballos would be decent. I'm interested to see how Guendouzi develops this season. A midfield of Torreira, Guendouzi and Ceballos I think has a lot of balance to it, and I like it. There's not too much physicality in there though, so maybe without taking Xhaka out, you lose some of that physicality. Junior Gunner says, anyone else think these two signings are laughable and leave us challenging for 5th and 6th? Personally don't, Junior, mate. I think that Ceballos is a very astute signing for a season. I think he covers the whole left by Ramsey, and then we can focus next year's finances on replacing the Welsh midfielder. And in terms of Saliba, it's just one of those things. If you want to sign the top quality content, sometimes you need to take away him for a season, let him develop. And I know it's a contractual thing that he has to go back. But to sign the best players, sometimes you need to take a step back. Sometimes you have to take a hit. And this might be the hit we have to take to sign one of Europe's really, really top up-and-coming players in centre-back position. João Sodonko says, I don't like the height or physicality. Yeah, that is a big thing for that midfield three we were previously talking about. De Beer says we should play without a number 10. So no 2 number 8s and a DM in a 4-3-3. Yeah, I agree with that. I think we should play with a 4-3-3. But I think there's games against the lesser sides in the league where we really need to take the game by the scruff of the neck, and you can do that with the number 10, be it Ozil, be it the likes of Iwobi playing that more central role, even Ceballos being pushed slightly more central rather than playing as one of the 2 number 8s in a pivot sort of midfield with Torreira in behind them. But I do agree with that statement. Fix72 says could be Saliba and Holding as our 2 centre-backs after the season finished, and that looks promising. If you look at them, and a lot of people have a lot of time for Rob Holding, and so do I think he's a fantastic player. I think can do a lot for the club. I just think that there's a lot of pressure going to be put on him. But if you can get Rob Holding developing, if you can bring the likes of William Saliba in as well, those two can be your centre-back pairing for the next decade. They really can, and that shouldn't be understated. That if they can develop and become really good players, you've got your 2 centre-backs sorted for the next decade, and you can focus your finances on improving areas that are going to need to be improved in the future, such as that striker while Aubameyang gets a little bit older, such as another winger moving forwards. Eventually a centre midfielder's going to have to brought in a right back, possibly definitely in terms of backup. But our team is starting to come together. If you look at the players that we could be getting, Saliba being one and Holding being the other, and just in that 2 centre-back role, the future does look a lot brighter. And if you look at the youngsters and how they performed in pre-season, I think there's a lot to get excited about. I don't think we should be over-exaggerating anything, but I still think there is a lot to be excited about moving forwards. Sandil says, how is Savic, Atletico Madrid as a defender, 1 year left on his contract? Savic has always been one of those players that's never really put too many feet wrong in terms of his defensive style. There's no reason why someone who plays for Atletico Madrid wouldn't be trusted by Diego Simeone if he wasn't a good defender. And I think that's more than can be said for Savic. The only issue I have with him is that he's not really a player that inspires me. I think that they will keep hold of him, and I don't really want the offcuts of Atletico Madrid. I want someone who's going to come in and develop and get better. That's why I'd be looking at someone a little bit younger than him to be coming in. But then there are players that are more established, like Armando Izzo, for instance, who I'm really keen on. And having watched a lot of him and done a lot of research on him recently, I think he's certainly someone that could have come in, but it's irritating. Regani, as Rocket Man Rave says, there is someone else who's been linked. If we get stronger links, I will definitely do a tactical breakdown on Regani. But there's just something about the fact that Juventus never really stuck with him either, and have signed De Ligt, which I know is one of those you can't really pass up, but they signed back Bonucci from AC Milan. Now, if you're signing back Bonucci for that amount of money and letting Higuain go, do you think that tells you much about how good or how much they rate Regani, for instance? Because I think there is a little bit of something you have to think about in there. De Beer says, I don't think Emery didn't trust Martinelli much. He played other kids, but didn't play him against Bayern or Real. I'm not sure if we can read too much into his involvement there. Having spoken to Tim Walsh, who was with Callum Chambers during the US tour, Callum Chambers actually spoke very highly of the Brazilian and really reckoned that Martinelli would push himself forwards. I think that it's just one of those players. We didn't see loads of Guendouzi in pre-season, but hey, he started that match against Manchester City and did a decent job, even though we lost the game. So I don't think you can read too much into that one at all. Snag FN says we have 6 centre-backs and none of them are good. None of them, I think, is a bit harsh. I think we've got a really good one coming through in Rob Holding. I think Socrates is decent. I think that Mustafi is Mustafi. And I think that we've got players like Mavropanos who's coming through that can be definitely rated highly moving forwards, although there have been issues with the club and how they rate them. And then you've got Zach Medley, who is a very physical presence, very, very promising, very quick for his position, quite technical on the ball as well. And I think that he possibly has a chance of breaking into that Arsenal team moving forward. So I wouldn't understate the youth side of the system whatsoever. Wilson says, do you think that Arsenal have more than 45 minutes to spend? Yeah, we talked about that, Wilson, mate. I think we definitely do. 95 Winston says, Papu Abu Cisse has gone to Wolves. Or has he moved to Wolves? I'm assuming that's the Olympiacos centre-back. I think he is. I'm not sure if he has moved to Wolves. I haven't checked that. But if he has, they've signed what seemingly is a decent player, from if you ought to believe the hype around him. Hyper Francis says Chambers over Mustafi for centre-back. I would have to agree with him. Smurrigan says Chambers deserves a chance in the first team. He did. His time on loan at Fulham and came away Player of the Year. Again, I don't think Chambers will be sold or loaned out. I think he will get his final chance to really prove himself. Marquis says, allow Xhaka. Yeah, he does divide opinion, let's be honest. And Mohammed says, I don't see us signing a centre-back this season when we still have all those deadwoods and they are not able to get a rid, I think he means, of them at the moment. Yeah, I think the fact that we can't seem to get rid of Koscielny because of the politics around the deal as well. Like, we want to make money from Koscielny, and there's no point selling Koscielny if you're not going to get anything for him. But why would you just wipe the contract? You've got a player there. Be stubborn. You can't let this guy show other players that Arsenal can be bullied by just saying, I want to leave, sign me off my contract. No, it doesn't work like that. Arsenal need to get something back. I'm going to finish the show there. I'm really, really sorry that the first one cut out. You've had, obviously, I wasn't going to just kind of cut things off. I was always going to come back and put another show out as a part 2. So now, I guess you have to go and like 2 videos. I think that's how it works, doesn't it? I'll put 2 out, so you have to like them both. I'm only joking. I only like it if you have liked it. But I hope you have enjoyed the show. And you've enjoyed me putting basically one out, even though you couldn't hear me for a little bit the first one. Enjoy your weekend when it comes up. I'm talking like it's a weekend, and I'll tell you why. It's because it's the last day of term, which means I've now got 5 whole weeks off work. Not that I'm smug in any possible way, but don't you worry, because I'll be working hard over the summer to get as many videos out to you as possible, no matter what anyone says. Daily uploading is fun, and I like it, and I like putting the effort in and seeing all the comments that we've been getting. You're clearly enjoying it, and it's really enjoyable to read your comments and read what you're thinking about the channel. I'll be telling you more about what's going on in the channel, and you'll see more, hopefully, now that they've come back from the US tour and these games are going to be at a more reasonable hour. I might be able to show you what I've got in store, basically, in terms of the raw reaction and the tactical breakdown. Thank you ever so much. I'm seeing your comments as they come in, people, and I really, really appreciate them. Have a fantastic end to the week, and as always, keep the faith with Arsenal. Stuff will happen, I promise you. Stuff will definitely happen. But as always, up the Arsenal.